Sharon Watson, CEO and Principal of Northern School of Contemporary Dance. Thank you so much for speaking to us today. So we're in beautiful surroundings on stage. You must feel so at home here.
What a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to be here. It feels like I have come home. And yeah, the surroundings are really quite exquisite. It's a very unique space that is actually a training establishment, and a unique space, having been a synagogue, is now our theatre. And the heart of Chapeltown as well, which is quite an unusual and quite special thing to have under your belt.
Definitely. So speaking of Chapeltown, you grew up a few streets away in Hare Hills. And what was it like? Where did it all start, your journey in dance, and how you've ended up here?
Yeah, a few streets away, actually. I think the real journey started at Hare Hills Middle School, which is just the other side of Chapeltown. But, you know, an inspiring teacher saw the ability to educate young people through creative movement. And I think there were many of us that had got the bug. It was part of the curriculum, which was quite unusual as well. And pretty much from there, I had my first class at 9. And I have an older sister. She came home dancing and practicing all of these steps in the kitchen, and can you do this? And I was like, this is really interesting. I did it. I was like, wow, quite like that. Can you do that? And I was like, yeah, this is what we did in school today. And I honestly couldn't wait. She's 2.5 years older than I am, so a little way up. So in my first class at that school, I came home and told my parents, when I'm 16, I'm going to London to become a professional dancer. And at 16, I packed my bags and I went off to London to be a professional dancer. So this building that we're in now didn't exist at the time when I wanted to embark on a professional career. And there were many, many of us that actually had to go to London to start that journey. And bless Nadine Senior actually saw that she was able to develop a school and said that it was the last year that she was going to send her students to London. And lo and behold, we have the Northern School of Contemporary Dance, an exceptional, outstanding training establishment, which I am now the CEO and principal of, which I never thought would be the case. So yeah, it's a bit surreal, and I am living the dream.
Wow, so you've come full circle, basically. So how did your parents react to when you said at 16 that you're going to go to London with your sister and pursue a dancing career?
It's amazing. I think I call Nadine my second mum, so she did everything, and she looked after a lot of us in terms of the dance world that we all embarked upon. So she would take us out on our trips. We would travel to Scotland, we'd travel abroad, and it was with Nadine Senior. So our parents put a lot of trust in her. We came home with a letter, our parents signed it. What are you doing tonight? We're going to the youth club, we're going to dancing, we're off to London. And I came back and just said, that's it, let's get the application sorted. But it wasn't my mum that did it, it was Nadine that had applied. She was the one also that sorted the grants that we needed. I couldn't have done it without the support, the financial support. And when I said to my mum and dad, we're off, it was Nadine that took us to London. So
Wow.
she just, okay, well, we'll see you soon.
Well, Nadine Senior sounds incredible. So how did that relationship form with her?
Nadine had a special gift for seeking talent. She just knew how to draw it out of any individual. And I think the talent that she saw was not just about the dance. I think the creativity happened in other areas, and she was able to really engage and pull people together. I don't know, sometimes when I get in a taxi after I've been away, and, oh, are you coming back from London? Are you coming back? Yeah, I'm kind of in the dance. Oh, I went to Hare Hills. I was the one that worked on the stage set. I was the one that did the lighting. And you just think, all those years ago, they are still inspired by that collaborative work, that way of actually engaging in a process that meant you took pride in what you did. So no one was left out, even though they weren't the main dancers on the stage. But she had that ability, and I think there was something unique about her teaching style that said that every child had the ability to express themselves. And she also just felt that the opportunities were there. She was fearless. She really was fearless. And I think that example for me was a way of, her leadership was something to be admired, which I do, and I still do. But yeah, the relationship was solid. She became a trustee of the Phoenix Dance Theatre, of which I was a director for. And unfortunately, she's no longer with us, but her legacy, as you can see, lives on.
And quite a legacy she's left. So in talking about Phoenix Dance Company, how did that all start? Because you were one of the first female members to join that group.
Yeah, I think the sentence continues. One of the first females to join an all-black, award-winning contemporary dance company, which I don't think this country had ever seen before. So we were the 4 ladies that joined the company, my sister being one, Pam Johnson, another, Celine Thomas, who's now Derek, and the 4 of us were pretty honoured to be asked. The company started in 1981, and we joined the company in 89. And I think it was initially a 6-month contract, of which I said, yeah, I was in London at the time, I'll head back to London and continue my career. And actually, I never left. I've never left Leeds since 1989. So I've been here. Phoenix has really helped me to establish myself as an artist, definitely as a performer. The kind of artists that we were able to work with really were at the top of their game, quite exceptional in terms of the group of people we worked with. And that bonding that we had was unbelievable. I had an amazing career traveling the world. So, they say dance doesn't pay. Well, actually, you couldn't pay for that kind of experience in a way that was life-changing. And some of the friends that I've met over the years are still with me today. So, long live Phoenix.
And what was it like touring around the world with an all-black dance company?
It was crazy. I think it was, when you think about Harehalls and you think about the streets in which we played, and I come from a very large family, and then to kind of be in another part of the world, in Argentina, in America, in Europe, you just think, wow, is this a life? Is it a dream that we're living? But we put the work in. We really put the work in, and I think to show that talent can pay off is amazing. The fact that we were all black was really significant, because not only were we saying that anyone can do this, as black people we can do this, and we can do it to the level that actually is worthy of any contemporary dance company in the world. And to see the black bodies on stage doing such skilled work, and you know what the stigma is around it, it's never as good as, or it shouldn't be like this, but we broke a lot of the stereotypes, and we are incredibly proud of that. It's not about the pigmentation that you carry in your skin, it's about the hard work and the graft that you put in, and that's rewarding. So it's possible to do this. It's possible to step into territories that are not necessarily designed for you.
I think a lot of different dance forms, or like ballet, for example, has a stigma of being very middle class. So how are you actively trying to change those stereotypes around different dance forms?
Yeah. The stigma is going to take a long time to remove. But what I think is interesting is I'm trained in classical ballet. It was never my intention to perform it, but I know the value of the technique. And because of that, I think if we get that messaging across to our students, then they will understand that it actually is for them. What I think is interesting is if they see someone like me delivering ballet, dancing ballet, experiencing it, they can understand how it fits within their bodies. The tutors that deliver ballet need to understand that the bodies are different. We all have a unique body within us. Of course, we've got arms and legs, but there is a different way in which I think our bodies move and how we absorb information. So to understand that, whilst it's going into the body, is really important. You are not going to get me dancing like a European dancer, because my body aesthetically doesn't look like that. And there's no way that I'm going to say to a student, you should fall into that mold. Let's see what your creativity tells us. And let's do it that way so that you understand. Sometimes we dance ballet to the percussion instruments. Now that's different. That has a different energy and a different vibe. It's not wrong. It's just that it's not normally done that way. So you're mixing it up a little bit to try and understand also how you can, as a student, how that technique fits your body is really important, because they have to have ownership of that. They have to have ownership to be able to know that they can develop themselves as an artist, but also they have to understand the value of why that technique is being presented to them, and not reject it in a way that says we're trying to make you something that you're not.
In terms of your dancing and breaking stigma and stereotypes. Have you carried that with you throughout your whole career?
It is unfortunate to say, because I think I'm sitting here as the Chief Exec and Principal, which I'm not sure how many others there are in the country as a black leader in this position. So I don't take it for granted that I've arrived here just because it was, it's given to me. I've worked hard to be here. And the message, unfortunately, yes, I think I've had to navigate, even Phoenix, that it talks and creates work from a black perspective, has had its challenges. It's up against a lot of the stereotypes, or even the fact that actually, should we have a company that talks of black British experiences? Well, if we don't have it, we are not talking about a British experience at all. So for me, that messaging had to travel with everything I do. Inside of dance, outside of dance, with the mentoring that I do, with the kind of leadership roles I've played, it's been important because I think sometimes you walk into a room and those that are in the room don't realize that actually what they're doing are the microaggressions and the various other forms. So you have to have your wits about you, and you have to be, as I said about Nadine, you have to be fearless, because we're not going to change anything if we continue to deliver the same. So it was important for me to find that courage to be able to say, I know that sits within some of the world that I enter and the works that I enter, but ultimately I have to find the courage and the belief in myself to be able to tell others that they can believe in themselves, and which means that we can start to make change.
And in terms of change, what would you like to see change within the arts industry from your perspective?
We're going through a particularly challenging time. We understand that COVID is one of the challenges that we have, but there's another challenge which we describe as another pandemic, and that is the Black Lives Matter, because within the industry there's a very low percentage of black and brown and Asian people that are actually stepping forward into a space that is actually should be equal to them. So the leveling up of the kind of the race in particular, the races, I think is where we have the challenges. I think the characteristics across other areas, the disabilities, the LGBTQ, we fix this part of it, we fix everything. And that messaging really is there for me to try and put out there, because we have such low numbers. A lot of the young people don't feel that this industry is for them, which we have to change that messaging. And actually, if you can see it, you can believe it. It's probably a very cliche statement, but there's some meaning behind that. Your examples and your role models are there to help you believe that actually it hasn't happened and it hasn't come easy. But actually, if I try, if I work, if I ask the questions, if I push the door, I'll get one step closer. So let's demonstrate that by giving the opportunities, by showcasing the opportunities, by having these conversations. It's possible. It is very, very possible.
Recently, Diversity did a performance on Britain's Got Talent, and it triggered a lot of complaints from different audiences. Just wondering what your reaction is to that and how you respond as somebody who's in the arts industry.
I applaud them. Absolutely. I think for too long we've had screens put up as to what it is that I think our art form should and shouldn't say. I think Diversity used their platform incredibly well. It's a narrative that's real. It's something that's hitting us on a day-to-day basis, the treatment of other people. Now, we could have that narrative with the same narrative with white people, and I wonder whether or not they would still understand that it's not okay to do what's happening to people, period. So I do applaud them. I absolutely think it's amazing that they've stood up to this, because if you think about how long it takes to make change, I sit and I'm reading policies here in my new role, and the accountability kind of feels as, again, it's at arm's length. But it kind of gets brushed, the energies, that was yesterday, or that's in America. It's here, and it's real, and it's now, and it's with people that look like me. I think we need to see more of it, because maybe those hundreds of people that chose to complain about it might take a second look at themselves. I just don't understand how you've got a nerve, personally. but the platform is there, and so it's there for diversity, it's there for us. We need more of it. Unless we have more of it, it's going to be a very slow change, and the impact of that will continue to delay a necessary change that I think we need to see.
What do you want to instill in your students?
a can-do attitude, a generosity, and a love for what they do. I think it's important. The career is too difficult to not love it. I think we have exceptional artists coming out of this building, and to take that with you in your future careers. You can always come back to us and ask us for advice. You could always come back and work with us, but actually take that and fly.
And what advice would you give to young black women or young black men who want to be in your position?
Stick with your passion. Really stick with your passion and really investigate what it is that you want to do. I mean, I had a very lily-pad career, I think. I realised that as an artistic director, that was an ambition. But before there, I knew that there were steps. They say earn your stripes, and there are many ways in which you can do that. But I knew it was my passion, and I knew I could run a company.
Looking from the outside in, it seems as if you've kind of broken the glass ceiling. Do you feel that? Because that's how it feels like to somebody like me who's looking at you.
No, the glass ceiling is there. It's still there in my career. I don't believe that I'm standing on the ceiling. I mean, I can look through and think, I've got another level to get to. I've got another layer I've got to break through. I want to be sitting around the table with government because I think there's a real question and a challenge that needs to happen, but I'm not there yet. And the ways in which I can navigate that conversation, I've got to figure out who do I need to sit and talk to in order to get me to be able to have my voice heard. I hope that the actions that I'm taking is about enabling others to kind of stand, as I say, by my side to be able to make that happen. And some of those individuals are not just necessarily black people, but actually people that believe in the cause, people that believe that actually as a collective we can make a stronger voice for change.
What does a perfect future look like?
I think the inequalities are the big challenge. We do a lot of learning and talking about our history around race and understanding that our history and our significance didn't start with slavery. We have an amazing, rich history that I'm learning about, because I think to be proud of who we are as people is so important, but also to show other people that we have who we are. And that goes way beyond the notion that slavery was our beginning. And if we understand who we are as people, and if we can respect each other as people, then we're in a position to level up. Because honestly, I think for our young people, they need the positive role models. They need to understand their worth.
And what is it about dance that inspires you? You've been in this industry for so many years.
I believe, and again, another cliche, but I believe it can change lives. I believe it changed my life. I think it's a form of expression that you can do without words, and sometimes words are not enough for you to be able to say what it is you feel or for what you want an audience to experience. I was asked recently whether or not I miss performing on the stage, and the answer was no, which surprised them. And I said, well, the breadth of what we offer, I can find pleasure in seeing somebody else take a curtain call, knowing that I've had a hand in helping them to develop and deliver the best that they can be. When I sit in the audience and I see the work on stage, and I feel the vibe of an audience absorbing that energy, feeling as though they've actually got a connection with the performance, that for me is satisfaction. That for me is a curtain call. And I have the same sensation of satisfaction as when I took a curtain call to say that actually when I see others experiencing this emotion, it does it for me. So I don't know, it draws me back every time. I don't think I've really ever thought of being or doing anything else.
And how does your culture impact your creativity?
For those of you that are unaware, in 2018 I produced a piece of work called Windrush, Movement of the People. And it was a story based on my family's journey here to the UK. And it was an opportunity to put on stage. It wasn't long enough, but an hour of a narrative that talks about our British culture. So 5 of my brothers and sisters are born in the Caribbean, and my mother, I think, left her, at the time, her youngest, who was 1 year old, before she came across. So my father travelled across. He didn't travel on the Windrush ship itself, but he came across a few years later and set up home in Leeds and sent for my mother. So it was, people actually say, is that a real story? It's a real story. And You know, my 5 brothers and sisters were in the Caribbean. I never met them until I was probably, at 3, 4. I think my first brother and sister, Carmen and James, came across. And then a few years later, they would save money and send back for the others. And so it was. You know, my parents paid into partners to be able to save money because it was the way it was done. The banks weren't accessible. And understanding that they had to have their family here. And once they got here, some of that challenge of actually finding a place to live was horrendous. I think the signs of the no dogs, the no blacks, no Irish was a real thing. And, we see images of that nowadays and think, how could you possibly? Well, actually, that was probably just the most kindest way to do it, so you didn't get close to the challenges of what the kind of the hostility that was being faced. And, my parents are grafters. They work hard, and they have instilled in us the need to understand, a good education and to be able to be part of society. But as British citizens, it's not something they expected coming here. It's not something that they felt they would have to fight for to keep their passports as British citizens. So making the production really was phenomenal. And I think there are numerous stories that need to be told that we just haven't got around to doing so. But I think in terms of looking at how our culture informs not only myself as a creative, but our society, and actually within a form that needs no words, you can watch that and understand about displacement. You can understand how it is to have integration, to understand disparity, and all of the things that I think sits around that particular agenda, which is specific to a culture, but actually it's specific to us all as humans. When my mother saw that work, she cried, and she cried. And we had the black elders who are sited up the road, just up the road here. We brought them into the studio. And I just watched them as they were saying, oh, I recognize this and I believe that, oh yes, that's... And I just think, wow, that directly connects to their experiences. How many more of these stories can we tell where they're actually also celebrating what they've brought to this country? Because it's also a celebration. Not everything that our culture and our race has done is negative, and those stereotypes need to be, one, addressed, but two, they're not really relevant and they're not balanced. So let's also show the positive sides of what we do, and Windrush for me was that amazing opportunity.
You've won multiple awards, one being the Yorkshire Woman of the Year. What's your proudest achievement in your career so far?
Oh my God, do you know, I'm laughing because sometimes I don't know how it happens. I really don't. You get on with what you're doing, and suddenly you kind of go, you hear that this is happening and you go, well, who's been watching me? Somebody must have been watching to see what's going on in the background. And I think that for me is the thing that I say to everyone. I have this award and I'm so grateful and it's amazing, and to be on that platform, I appreciate it. But I think what is really interesting is the work that's gone on behind the scenes, because you couldn't give me that award unless you really understood what I was doing, what I'm trying to achieve. And I have to say, most of my awards are not in dance. Most of my awards are from other industries, which is interesting. And I don't know what that's about, but it's there. And I just think, well, in a way, the job I set out to do was not just to educate my own sector, but to do the job on a broader platform, and it's been recognised. So I'm absolutely, I'm smiling because I still, again, it's quite surreal in the way that it happens. I'm delighted because, again, other young people, I have a daughter, a young 20-year-old, and it's like, well, this can be you too. This is there for you. I have a son of 18, and, he talks to me quite openly about what does that mean. And I have to justify it. Of course I do. It's, what does it mean? What does it really mean to receive the Yorkshire Woman of the Year? What do I do with that, and how do I make sure that I encourage others to do and to be able to say, well, actually, that is there for you too. So yeah, I embrace it with both hands and my heart, most definitely. And I will always keep smiling because I never expected any of the accolades, but I'm delighted to have them.
You're from a very large family. You've got 7 siblings. They all must be so proud of you, looking at where you started from and where you are now. Is that the conversations you have when you all get together?
Do you know, my family keep me very down to earth. It's, you know, oh yeah, that's great, Sharon. Well done, that's amazing, beautiful piece of work. Actually, you're popping round to Mum's on Sunday, and you know, just the reality of who we are as a family is quite amazing, and actually it's necessary. It's necessary because I think the perception could be that I've kind of taken myself out of the family household and it looks a little bit like this, when actually I've got to go around and do my mum's ironing. You know, she's an elderly lady right now. I've got to kind of give the support. My sister and I, we go walking in the park and we have our conversation. She's busy teaching in another school, and you just think, you know, we have some of the challenges. We talk about our kids, but I do remember really trying to find my voice when I was younger. I have memories of just almost talking to my parents in a way that I almost didn't recognize, you know, just saying no to something, which I think was quite, you know, Caribbean families, there are ways in which things are done, and sometimes you work against the norm and you just wonder, oh my God, okay, can I do that? Can I say that? And, you know, it was, I think I can recognize my younger self just finding a way of saying, I'm not going to do that unless my brother does it too, and waiting for the response. And actually my parents going, then the both of you get off and get the dishes done. You wash, you dry, both of you. But it's not just my job. So I think that kind of building that sort of tenacity in me was, I could see that happening.
So you've already got an amazing legacy, and obviously you've got so much more ahead of you. So what are your future goals?
I think the vision really is, this place is so inspiring and we can do so much more. Our footprint is to be extend what we do, because I believe that there's a part of our industry that can help society even more so, not just as a form of entertainment, but we talk about, we've got a serious health agenda that we have to address in our society, and I believe that dance and movement can do that. Dance and movement can be a conduit to facilitate some of those changes, and understand that actually our bodies are a significant tool. It's more than a survival kit, and within the school we're looking at developing our research practice. We're looking at our international in a way that says, although we're on lockdown, we know that across the waters we can work together in a way that talks and helps and educates others. So there's so many other areas that I think that the school can offer. We're in the heart of Chapeltown, and our community, we want them to come through the doors to understand more how they can connect with us and what we do in order to facilitate their connection to dance and movement. And I'm not saying it's all contemporary dance, because I think sometimes people lose the idea of what contemporary dance is, but we know about movement. We know how we can connect with another person through entertainment, and the entertainment is through a form of contemporary dance, whether that is jazz, whether it is classical, whether that's Afro-Caribbean. We have the carnival that we celebrate every year on our doorstep. Now, to have some of that work in our building in a way that says this is an art form that's to be, one, respected, two, to be understood, and three, you can perform this. So let's see how that translates. Let's kind of figure out how you come in and how we come across to you, that we can begin to build an art form that has international reputation, so that people can come and say, well, actually, I'm coming because I want to engage with that particular art form. So there's lots to do. And, you know, for us to be extending our footprint, we just want to be able to offer more to more students, because we know it's a great payback.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for giving up your time in your very busy schedule to speak to us. It's amazing to hear your journey, and good luck for everything you do in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.